Spider-Man versus Venom. We know it's coming. We know Sony is going to make it a huge, huge ordeal when we finally get there. And we're probably going to see more steps after we see No Way Home that attest to that fact. Welcome to the Chaos Multiverse, everybody. Jimmy or Chaos. And today we're going to be discussing Spider-Man versus Venom. And I have a theory about this off some reports that we already have on how this may go. And it may not go like most people think it's going to go. We're going to talk about all of it, guys. Do me a favor. Make sure you have those notifications on. Make sure you're subscribed. No Way Home is just the tip of the iceberg, like Tom Holland said himself, to a much bigger picture. A much bigger MCU, a much bigger Spider-Verse, and things that happen to culminate a new endgame down the road. Make sure those notifications are on. Thank you to everybody that helped us reach 10,000 subs. We are now on our way to 20,000. So, we have rumors out there. Spoiler alert. Let me give you your official spoiler alert because we will be talking about potential plot leaks, spoilers of multiple movies. So there you go. If you don't want to be spoiled, now is the time to leave. We already know Venom Let There Be Carnage connected Venom to Tom Holland's Spider-Man. Venom is now officially in the MCU in that main sacred timeline. We also have a pretty good idea that they're going to return the favor in a post-credit scene on Spider-Man No Way Home. Kevin Feige already confirmed that both teams work together really well on the Venom post-credit scene, and it makes sense that Tom would kind of affirm Eddie Brock and Venom as well. They kind of connect those two, and Sony would love to see that kind of finishing out this franchise for the Homecoming franchise and moving into their Sony Spider-Verse. So with that being said, what are Sony's next big moves? Well, it looks like they're going to be working with Disney and Marvel in a much closer, more intimate fashion as we move forward, which is absolutely fantastic for you and me, the fans and the community, because it just makes the MCU even bigger. And it makes the Spider-Verse and Sony's verse more viable. It's a win-win for everybody, and it includes everybody. So what is Sony looking at? Well, you know they're looking at Spider-Man versus Venom. They have to be. And it looks like they are probably setting up for a Spider-Man versus the Sinister Six because, let's be real, all the plot leaks and rumors we have right now for No Way Home, we don't even have a Sinister Six. We have a Sinister Five, and two of those aren't really sinister. The Sandman probably isn't a bad guy, and Doc Ock is a very conflicted villain. So you don't have an official Sinister Six here, and they're probably not going to portray it that way. So that leaves the door open for Sony to do an official one down the road in their own Spider-Verse. Kraven the Hunter, Morbius, Venom. Who knows who else they bring into the mix, because now the multiverse is cracked wide open. They have reaffirmed the IPs of Andrew Garfield and Tobey Maguire. I mean, really, the opportunities are endless. But Spider-Man versus Venom, everybody automatically thinks the whole movie is about Tom Holland versus Eddie Brock. And if Spider-Man happens to get that symbiote suit at any point. But the problem is, if you're only going with one symbiote suit and it's Venom's, one guy has it, the other guy doesn't, it's not a fair fight. And honestly, I don't know how you can make a 2 or 2.5 hour movie about that. I don't think that would be anything anybody would, it wouldn't flesh out right. Now, we have heard rumors about one of the post-credit scenes being a tease or a nod toward Tom actually getting his black symbiote suit, but we'll have to wait and see how that goes. But I have another idea on how they can go about this, because this could potentially be $1 billion box office movie, but it has to be done right. And I don't know how you tell a story of Tom versus Eddie with only one suit. You really can't. Now, if you've seen Venom Let There Be Carnage, you probably know that they hinted toward Toxin being in the Venomverse and the Spider-Verse in the future as well. But then again, that doesn't really make sense for Toxin to take over one of them. It doesn't really vibe, if you ask me. So what do you do to make it a huge thing? Well, some people say, well, maybe Sony ties it into the in-game culmination that could be the Secret Wars event, the next level event down the road that Marvel's working on. And in 2019, Mikey Sutton said that Secret Wars would be the next in-game level event for the next phases of the MCU, but that's a ways off. We still have to get established Fantastic Four. We have to get Kang the Conqueror going. We probably need Doctor Doom in the mix, and who knows if Galactus ends up being that ultimate baddie at the end of that. We are a long way off, so I don't think Spider-Man versus Venom has anything to do with that roadmap. But what I do think is they could do something with the Planet of the Symbiotes comic run. It was a story arc. It was 5 parts. And it makes a lot of sense if you ask me, because you could have them kind of going back and forth, and then Spider-Man, maybe he convinces Brock to get rid of Venom, or Venom tries to go to Tom Holland and he rejects him, whatever. At one point, Venom gets pissed off. We already know from Venom Let There Be Carnage that he's still connected to the hive mind with 80 million years of memories and different timelines, and he has connections to the hive. So in the comic run, he lets out a scream, a telepathic scream that goes everywhere, and it draws other symbiotes to the Earth. That is where you have the flip. That is where you kind of get everybody looking one way. Spider-Man versus Venom, that's the title, that's the headliner, but in the end, it's Spider-Man versus Venom, and they have to work together. Think Batman versus Superman. Same type of deal. So they start off at odds, and maybe Peter gets, we get the fan service payoff, and Peter gets the black symbiote suit, doesn't like it, gives it back to Eddie. Eddie says, you know what? Neither one of us need this. Let's just be buds. And Venom's not having that. He's not going to be alone. So he brings in more symbiotes. And you might say, well, if Venom brings them in, he'd be on their side. No, 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 no. Venom brings him in and then realizes what he's done, and he has to suit back up with Eddie, and then you have Spider-Man next to them, and they are fighting side by side to stop all these symbiotes that heard Venom scream and came to Earth. That is the way you could go about it. You could even include other people. You could include heroes like Daredevil. You could have Morbius or maybe even Blade involved in this in some way, where good and bad have to come together to stop the greater evil. That is my thought. That is my theory, because I was thinking about it. Spider-Man versus Venom, when you say it, it's massive. It's a huge draw. It's a $1 billion box office movie. It truly is. But when you actually break it down, how do you have Spider-Man versus Venom? What exactly would you do to make that an entertaining 2 or 2.5 hour movie? I think it has to be conflict at the beginning and then coming together for a greater good. And what better way to do that than for them to do their variation of the Planet of the Symbiotes comic run? It makes perfect sense. It brings more symbiotes to Earth, brings more bad guys, and forces Eddie and Spider-Man or Tom Holland's Peter Parker to work together. And since there's only one suit to share, they don't have to share. Eddie gets to keep the suit, Spider-Man already has his powers, and there you go. Woo! That was a good one. You guys let me know if you agree or disagree. Obviously, it's all theory and speculation, but I think it would be cool. We'll come back to this video in a couple years and see if we were right.